Y'all sure did.
Yeah, right.
She's showing up like that.
She take pictures.
Yeah, I know she did.
Hello. We are here with Marc Henry Lazarre, and he is one of the actors in the movie Rough Patch Twisted Fate. He's also one of the brothers. He plays the character of Lonnie, and also he has been casted as one of the brothers in Honorable Men, the Brothers, which is going to be a television series. And in that one, he will be playing Ryan. What's Ryan's middle name? I know we got Casey, but what was the last name? Ryan
Spears.
Okay, sorry about that. We have Ryan Casey Spears that he will be playing in the TV series of The Honorable Men, The Brothers. And then we also just casted him in the new movie feature film that we're going to be filming this summer, called Devastation.
Yes.
And we're going to let him talk a little bit about that a little bit later. But we wanted to start with the movie Rough Patch Twisted Fate, which we just finished filming, that will be coming out this summer of 2014. So let's start there, Mr. Lazarre,
Yes.
Marc Henry Lazarre, and thank you for sitting with me to do this interview.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
You are so welcome. So anyway, so the first thing we want to do is talk about when you first learned about the movie Rough Patch Twisted Fate, and you learned that you got cast. What was your response when you were by yourself? What was your immediate response?
Well, it's interesting. I was really excited about it because the way I found it was through a Facebook posting, actually.
Okay.
Through Gwen Langston.
Okay.
Who did a great job casting for the movie.
Thank you.
And, when I applied for it, I sent her my stuff.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of a, I don't want to say a delay, but, it was a couple months before, you actually called me. So I actually was seeing other people get casted for it. So I was kind of like, okay, well, I guess, maybe that's not the one. So then when I got a phone call from you, I was really ecstatic. Because like I said, it was like a couple month time frame between when I submitted and when I heard from it and I watched other people get cast. So I was really excited because, when I first heard the basic premise of the story,
Yeah.
it definitely seemed like something that I wanted to be a part of.
Okay. So what was the premise of the story that stuck out to you that made you feel like you wanted to be a part of the project?
Well, the title itself,
Okay.
Rough Patch Twisted Fate. I'm very much a believer in fate and destiny
Okay.
and things of that nature. So, going through, difficult situations in my own life, I knew the pros and cons and how you can build as far as your character when you endure a rough patch.
Mhm.
So it seemed like something inspirational, and to that point in my career, I really hadn't done anything like that as far as inspiration and really touching people and making them want to be better people themselves.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. Okay, so you got your phone call, you learned you were cast, and we kind of had some time frame before we even started filming. What was some of the things you were feeling when we had the delay that we ended up filming maybe like 6 months later than the date that we actually had planned? What was you kind of doing with that time, and what was your feeling? What was you kind of feeling about the project? Was it causing you to have any type of reservations because of this delay, or did you feel still encouraged to still want to do the project, even though it didn't start in the time that we had scheduled?
It's funny, I think certain things come at the right time. At that point in my life, as far as a maturity standpoint, I had, developed a pretty good sense of patience.
Okay.
I always consider myself, decently patient before, but because of things that I've been through, I was, a little bit more patient than I've always been. So it didn't bother me personally.
Okay.
I felt that, good things come to those who wait. And I think, for me, I'm a very loyal person. When I commit to something, I commit to it. So, being discouraged or anything like that wasn't a thought in my mind. I just know that sometimes you have to let things go on behind the scenes to get the best product out. And anything worth doing, you have to fight for it.
That's good.
So for me at that time, it almost was, I want to say like an encouragement, but it almost gave me more resolve to stick with it.
Really?
Which is different than what you hear a lot of people say, but for me, I always feel like if it becomes more difficult, then it's not sometimes something a deterrent, but sometimes you just really need to focus and really fight for it even more. So that, for me, I took it as just a point that, I really feel like I'm supposed to be on this project. I believe in it. I like the premise of the project, and I'm going to stick it through.
Amen. Well, I appreciate you sticking it through. Okay, so now, when you got cast as Lonnie, what did you think about the character that you were going to be playing of Lonnie? And then how did you get yourself prepared for the role? Because the role kind of changed here and there. Well, what did you feel about the character Lonnie, and how did you prepare for him?
Okay. Well, I ended up doing two characters, Lonnie and the homeless man, and both of them were really fun to play in their own way. Lonnie Lonnie's a little bit closer to how I am in real life.
Okay.
But there's a little bit more intricacy to him than what meets the eye. Lonnie, he's easygoing, he's the comic relief, but underneath all that, there's a keen sense of awareness that he has. Because really, it's he's humorous for certain reasons. Like he likes to keep the guys light. It's a bunch of different personalities in the brotherhood, the group of guys that he's a part of, and so he's very aware of the interpersonal conflicts and the different things that are happening. So he'll sometimes throw in a joke there to lighten up the mood. He's very aware of the guys, and really at the end of the day, he wants everybody to get along.
Right.
So it's not just him being goofy for no reason, and I like that. So I could relate to it. He was very close to me. So just really just touching on the things that maybe I do in my everyday life, and just being more aware of at the time points of when you hit certain rhythms and beats in the conversation, and when you want to be authentic with that, but at the same time be aware of what's going on around you.
Very good, gotcha. Okay, now you brought up a character that you also played in the movie. You did a couple of things in the movie. You also was the homeless man. Now, when we decided for you to be the homeless man was from a table read. You filled in for the character because the character hadn't gotten cast, but your tone as the homeless man was so great, we just decided to cast you. So how did you feel when you learned that you was going to do a dual role, and then how did you mentally get yourself prepared, because you had to take yourself from being a distinguished gentleman in a suit, hanging out with your boys, to going to be actually homeless, dirty, in boxes.
Right. That really was a great experience because it's like it went kind of like the course of my life. I had, things went kind of smooth for me to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Grew up in a two-parent home, have the basic advantages that you have going in that. And then, I moved to Atlanta on my own, and I actually was in a situation where I was around homeless people every day. I interacted with them for the first time in my life. I was interacting with them on a daily basis, holding conversations with them and really understanding these are people just like you. And the degrees of separation between you are not so different. They say the average American is 2 or 3 paychecks away from being homeless themselves.
That is true.
So in a lot of times in your life, you might be driving by and you drive down these certain roads. When I was home in Florida, it's real to a certain extent, and not that you think you're better, but then when I was in Atlanta by myself and really having to make it the best way I knew how, you learn that they're people just like you, and whatever air of superiority that you ever felt, it extinguishes that. And I've had so many great conversations and a lot of wisdom passed down to me from homeless people. So being able to take that and pour it into that character, it came from a real place because I saw it every day. I passed them when I walked home from my job. So it was a great experience to be able to play that, and it just helped me grow a lot as a person.
Well, you're triggering a thought that maybe I need to write a real heart-to-heart story about an actual homeless man. So that just kind of threw some creativity into my brain.
Yeah,
from what
you
you
can imagine
said.
how creative they are, the gifts that they have.
And
They're gifts.
sometimes their truth need to be told too, for them to be shown in a different light other than a dirty person on the street.
I agree.
I agree too, which brings me to the point of I have a great appreciation for the Each One Reach One, who actually goes out and reaches out to the homeless and helps out the homeless. That's a good organization to really support and bring them forth, blankets for them in the winter time, and then also have events where they feed them, make sure they have the care that they need out there. So that's really a beautiful program.
It is. It really is.
Yeah. Okay, now, all right, so let's talk about a little bit of some of the different roles that you played, because, you became very open and allowed yourself to kind of be a part of the project in so many different ways. Not only playing the role of Lonnie, playing the role of the homeless man, but you actually did some of the background scenes when we where actors didn't make it on set, or on the set I would change the script and I just need an actor. You were able to adjust to whatever the situation was. In addition to that, you changed your look in the same process to whatever character that we needed, and that just really impressed me that you were able to take your acting craft, perfect it that way that you were able to flow with whatever the change was. It didn't matter if the line, no lines, or just a bodily action in the background. How did you put yourself in those different places like that? You know, because you did one scene where we actually covered your face with a black towel,
Yeah.
and you were like, fighting through that scene, which scared me a
Very
lot
intense.
because it was very intense. So, and some of the scenes happened within a second, so you didn't have time to have a script,
Right.
to learn lines, to know exactly this is the role you're going to be in. Tell us a little bit about that journey for you and how you tapped into that creativity in you to be able to deliver those roles.
Well, I think for one, I love the craft, the art of acting in itself. But one thing that always sticks out to me is my mom always told me the one constant is change. So I've learned not to get too, set in my ways about certain things. If I come on set and I have a certain amount of lines and I think I'm gonna be saying those lines, but like you said, certain scenes would have to be changed and different things. I think there's a beauty in improvisation. You know, I think there's a real beauty in it, and as you said, improvision. I think there's a beauty in it that it helps you tap into, like you said, authentic emotions that you may not necessarily get to if you premeditate and you think on it too much. Sometimes I think it's best to just react. I was explaining to somebody that even when it comes to lines, lines are really the last thing I look at. Truthfully, I try to figure out what's going on. Who's speaking at certain times. I find the rhythm, and a lot of times, if you know what the rhythm is, those words and those feelings will come out without you even having to search for them. It'll come out to you automatically. Like if your role is to look for something in a scene, really be looking for something because it makes it more real to you. So playing the different characters and going to the different extremes, I loved it. The basement scene that we did.
Yeah.
That just the actual acoustics of the place, the actual background helped set the tone to me.
Okay.
It's a dark lit place. You have a dynamic actor in Cal Coughlin who, I don't want him to destroy me in the scene.
Right.
You want, just competitively, you want to be able to bring it. You don't want it to be a lopsided scene.
Yeah.
And being that, some people might take it the wrong way, but to me that just makes me better. Because you don't want somebody you don't want to watch a scene and it's like this, like, oh man, he did great, but this other person was just down here.
Right.
You hope that it makes the other person raise their bar. So in that scene or having it over my face, how could I not get into it? That's the way I look at it.
Okay.
And in that scene, I actually was shedding real tears. Without even, I didn't even realize it until after. I was like, oh, I was really crying.
Well, I felt the intensity of
that.
that.
Got into it, yeah. So you just try to not, you don't want to overthink it. I think that's the big thing. You have to really, like I said, be open to improvisation and really just get into it and let the atmosphere, it'll guide you.
Okay, let me go back a little bit because you said something that provoked a question in my mind, and that is, are there was there anything about this project that gave you any kind of reservations about the characters as you played them, and then also your preparation on a mental emotional, because like you said you had tears while you were under the covering. What was it that made you get in so deeply for that character? Was really a character that was originally set for another actor to do, but that actor didn't make it on that set that day. And with me not liking to cancel anything,
Right.
I needed to have that film because we had, when we have the location, you got to film because you never really know if you get back to that location.
Right.
One, and two, it costs you money to schedule that location and other people's time to make sure that location is free for us to go in there and do the work we need to do on that scheduled day. So there's a lot that goes into making a decision to get a location, schedule the location, and to do the performance at the location.
Yes.
A lot of actors and even crew members don't understand all that goes into play of that. So that's the reason I make those decisions, which I call executive decisions. I don't fire actors. I know actors might want to think I fired them, but really it comes to the actor firing themselves because they don't know how to adapt to the situation, or they're not good with the change.
Oh yeah.
And they get caught up in the lines, and they get caught up in their emotional feelings instead of the emotional feelings of the character that they actually supposed to play. So how do you build in yourself to say, I'm just going to flow with this, and I'm going to give that character that life? Because you gave that character so much life that I was actually behind the camera crying.
Oh wow, you know that.
I was behind the camera crying, and I kept calling it cut, because I don't know if you noticed this. I kept calling it cut because I was so, you did it so real that I was in fear watching you do the scene because I thought you were being hurt. Because your screams were like squilling to my body, and I was just, I just felt it so real. You gave such an authentic performance in that. It just totally blew my mind. That scene to me really made the movie.
Wow. I think in the short time that I had to prepare for it, because I mean I do it in my everyday life, I really thought about loss in its purest form. Like, because I've taken the road of an actor, I've really mentally made certain sacrifices. You know, I'm at the point in my life where a lot of my peers are getting married, families, they have the nest egg. You know, I have friends who are on 2, 3 kids, and I've taken this road. So really, when I was in that, you know, in that basement, I really just put myself in the mindset of all the things that I felt like I would never get to do because I was about to die. You know, have a family. What would my parents think? You know, coming from another country, you know, for me to get a better life, and then for me to, you know, for me to die. You know, it's kind of like I remember a scene in a great movie that Denzel said. You know, a father's not supposed to bury his kid; he's supposed to bury me. You know, so you think about those things, and I thought about all the unfulfilled things that would be in my life, and it helped me get into a really tough state because my life was coming to an abrupt end. Obviously, you can never, you know, predict how your life is going to go, but you never really prepare for that. And so, when a lot of people say when they have near-death experiences that their life flashes before their eyes, that's what you think about. You think about, man, I never got to have kids. My parents, how my parents going to take it, knowing the temperament. I knew they would take it hard. You know, I know my father would take it very hard. So you think about all those things, and it really helps. It really touches you. You know, this character, he had a great job and all these different things, and all of a sudden, just like that, something that's not even necessarily your fault. You know, that's not even your fault.
Right.
You know, you're thinking you're going about it the right way, but life. One thing I've learned is life isn't fair. You know, life is not fair, but you have to be able to. Like my dad used to always tell me, life goes on. Somebody dies, the next day life is going to go on. So I just tapped into that, and it just really got to me.
Have you ever thought about quitting acting?
Yeah, when I first started, I did. You know,
and tell me a little bit about that.
Oh man, I had a couple auditions where I just did the worst. I did all the actors no-nos, stared in the camera, the deer in the headlights, and I was actually at a time in my life where I was dealing with depression too.
Okay, so here's another question for you. Have you ever thought about quitting?
Yeah, I have. When I first started, when I was young in my acting career, I was at a point in my life where I was like dealing with depression. I almost got kicked out of college, so there was a lot of things going on. So I had gone to this audition in Orlando. Just did terrible. I did all the things you're not supposed to do as an actor. Felt like a deer in headlights, stuttering over my words, just was bad flowing. I caused somebody else to lose the audition because it was a group audition. It was a Valentine's Day audition where I was the son of a mother on Valentine's Day. So, needless to say, the lady who I was to play the son to, she didn't talk to me after the audition. She stormed out because I ruined it. And that was kind of rock bottom for me. You know, it was really, really tough because I think it's very important as an actor to be sound in yourself. To be able to play different characters, you have to have a base. You know, you have to be solid because you got to take yourself to different ends of the emotional spectrum. So you need to have something where you can hang your hat on, where you can bring yourself back to when it's all done. But if you're not solid in yourself, that's why a lot of actors get messed up emotionally because they don't have a place to really put their feet in the sand and be solid at. And at that time, I wasn't solid. I was, like I said, I was fighting with depression, and you know, I'd gone through a lot of personal things, and I just couldn't handle the rejection. And if you're an actor and you can't handle the no's, then it's going to be very tough to make it. So I really had to do some soul searching. I really had to get some things within myself right. So I took a little break, but I got back to it because at the end of the day, God had put it in me. I couldn't get away from it. It was like an itch that you can't stop scratching. I tried to do everything, get in different scenarios, work, you know, regular jobs and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it brought me back because it was my passion. I couldn't let it go.
That's good. So you consider yourself a actor's addict?
gift for sure. I mean, that's how I am. I'm passionate. Like anything I like, I go 125%. There's no halfway point with it.
I totally feel it and relate it because I feel like I'm a producer, director addict. I should not keep writing stories and stories because that I want to get back to that feeling of filming.
Right.
What you create in your brain is just it's just amazing to see that come into formation with the actors. So that's when I just love my actors. I love you, my actor, Marc Henry Lazarre. You did great in this movie.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, great. You mean that too, don't you?
Oh, really, truly.
Okay, awesome. Have you ever filmed a role you wish you never you wish you said no to?
You know what? I can't say that I filmed a role that I wish I never did, but I have filmed a scene that I wish I never did.
Okay.
You want to know what it was?
Well, without pinpointing a director or producer, are you able if you can tell about it without pinpointing the director or producer because I don't want to put no one on the spot of their creativity.
Okay.
So if you can, if you can't describe it without their spot.
Nah, it's not gonna. I'll be honest with you.
Okay.
Okay. So I did this role, and basically they wanted me to do something that had some. At the time, it had some homosexual undertones. Can I say that?
Okay.
Okay. So it wasn't like a scene. It wasn't like a bad scene per se. But it was something that kind of implied. It kind of implied it. And I didn't feel comfortable with it, but what it was is, like I said, I wasn't solid enough for myself. I was, early 20s. I was really young. And what happened was I did it, and I didn't feel right about it. So I actually approached the directors afterwards, and I said, you know what, can you just not put that in there? They put it in there anyways. And, I mean, it got a good reaction, but just for myself and my spirit, I didn't feel good about it.
Wow.
I didn't feel good about it, but I took that, and from that point on, I made a note to myself, and I was like, I'll never do something that I don't feel comfortable enough with, because I've seen a lot of people, on this road, I've seen people compromise themselves for the sake of that, and some people can do that. Some people can do that and live with it, and I always tell people, you gotta know what your limits are, but for me personally, I would never,
It just didn't work for you.
It didn't work for me, so I took it as a learning experience.
Wow.
I mean, like I said, it got a good reception, but just for me personally, I was like, I wouldn't.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it.
Can you go too far for a role?
That's a tough one. I've seen, like Heath Ledger is a prime example I think of when he played Joker. And an interesting point about that is I remember, Jack Nicholson who played the original Joker, even though the temperament of his Joker was completely different than the one Heath Ledger said. But Jack Nicholson said that character was the worst character he ever played in his entire career. Because, you have an aspect of method acting when you really get into that character. And the Joker as a character is psychotic in every sense of the imagination. So Heath Ledger was not getting sleep over that role. And he was taking pills just to try to get sleep. So I think it's really how much can you handle? Do I think you can go too far? I don't know if that can be answered. I think that's really a personal question for each actor. What's a big deal to me might not be a big deal to somebody else. What irks me might not irk another person. So as far as where they can take themselves as an actor, I know for myself, I'm pretty solid at this point, just in my maturity level. I think I have a good sense of where I'm willing to go and where I'm not willing to go.
That's good. And what is the biggest mistake you've made as an actor?
I would say the biggest mistake I made is that everybody had my best interests at heart. It's an industry where you really have to know how to navigate it. I think, I've spoken to different people just in entertainment in general, not just necessarily acting, but modeling and music and things of that nature. You really have to know the business. You have to really do your research. Unfortunately, it's not just all about acting. I mean, I would love it from a purist standpoint, from an artistic standpoint. All I could focus on is acting, but I have to know the P's and Q's of the industry, or you're gonna end up signing stuff that you probably shouldn't be signing, and find yourself in bondage in areas that you don't want to be in bondage to.
And getting an agent that don't do nothing for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
But can't hire nobody else because you're stuck in a contract with them.
Right. And then they get the percentage for something that you found on your own.
Of course, and that happens to music artists all the time as well.
Yeah, I have heard that.
Yeah.
What do you wish you never done as an actor? Is there a role, not necessarily a role, let me pause that and say, what do you wish you never done as far as a character. I know you told me about the other character, but what do you wish you just did not do? That you accepted the role, you did it, and you looked at it later and you're like, dang, I wish I never done that. Is there a role that you performed that you wish that you could say you wish you never done?
I think I've been a little bit fortunate in that area, pretty fortunate in that area for the most part.
Okay.
I would just say, as a young actor, I wish I had been a little bit more selective because the level of professionalism on certain sets isn't always. Because I really didn't have a bar that I had set because I didn't necessarily know what the bar was. So, like I said, anything that I'm passionate about, I go hard in all aspects. So a lot of stuff when I was up and coming, I was just, I was doing everything and anything, accepting anything and anything. And a lot of the times, a lot of projects would fall apart. They wouldn't finish filming. And I know there's a lot of extenuating circumstances that can affect the production, not just, the actor himself.
Yeah, it really can.
So, but I would say, I wish I'd been a little more selective. I can't say it right. I've been blessed. I can't say there's necessarily been a role that I felt like, oh my goodness, I'm so embarrassed. And 20 years from now, I'm going to be like, I wish I would have never done it.
Okay, I have a real interesting question for you. What's the biggest lie you told to a director to keep your role and to get that role?
To keep the role and to get that role.
Woo!
Maybe, gosh, that I loved the script, that I thought the script was just amazing.
And it really wasn't?
Yeah, it probably wasn't the best script. Just to me personally, I think that probably would have to be the biggest one.
Okay, and then to keep that role?
What have I done to keep it?
What did you lie about to keep that role? Because like when you take a role that you're really not feeling it, you got to kind of tap into something to be able to do that role. You got me already?
Yeah, and I got you. Well, here's one. Okay, so there was a particular role that I knew that I had a good chance to get it, or I had it, but he was, concerned about what my chemistry was or how I felt about a particular female. So personally, just dealing with her on set, I was just like, I wasn't feeling it. Like, I really just tried to, like, once it was cut, it was just going another direction. But, had to put the extra acting on. How do you feel about so-and-so? But I knew that the director really had an affinity for this particular person. So I was just like, oh, I think she's great. I think she's a great person, and I don't know what everybody else is talking about. Because really me and her were the ones who really had the most dialogue, but there were complaints from other actors and actresses that, hey, but when it came to me, I guess I'm the tipping point as to, I was just like, oh, I think she's great.
That's a good one.
Yeah, so, Lord forgive me.
Forgiven, I'm sure. What's the biggest sacrifice you made for your career?
Stability. Stability.
Explain.
I guess being the way I was raised and things of that nature, my parents, they wanted me to just, honestly, I probably wouldn't have went to college if I could do it all over again. I know that's pretty controversial, but I was never really sold on it. And I did pretty well in academics coming out of school, but I just was never sold on it the way I am. But I went because, my parents are immigrants. They worked so hard. They took it as a personal, disrespect to not go to college. Like, we came to this country and you're not going to go to school and just, people have these social norms that people like for you to drive down these roads that everybody drives. But I've always felt like my road has always been different. So the stability, like I said, I could be, when I was younger, I thought I'd be probably married at 25, something like that, have a couple of kids. But I sacrificed. I personally made it that I would leave that stuff to be, later on, because I just know how I am, and I didn't want to become one of those, I don't know, those absentee fathers who are obsessed with the career and they leave the wife at home and do it, because I easily felt like I could have become that if I had, when I was younger, I used to kind of judge people and see man, how could he do that? And how could he make the family the secondary to his passion? But because I know how I am, I know that probably would have happened.
Wow.
Just being honest, just being honest with myself, I probably would have been that. I would put the acting before it, so I had to let that go for a little while.
Okay, so we're gonna kind of change this a little bit, but I want this question to go into the movies that you're doing. Okay, how did you overcome the rejections that you were feeling as you began your career before you got solid?
They say sometimes you have to fake it till you make it. I would have to just I just knew that there was nothing else that I could really see myself doing at the end of the day. So I was just gonna have to go through the discomfort. I was just gonna have to go through the discomfort, yeah, because I knew what my alternatives were. You know, I watched my dad. You know, he's busted his behind for 30, 40 years. You know, he gets up at 5 o'clock every day still, and he's 60 plus. And I'm like, man, like I want to see you slow down a little bit. But you know, my dad's got that feeling of responsibility. He doesn't know any other way to go, and I didn't necessarily see that for myself.
Gotcha.
I wanted to love what I was doing.
And you do love what you're doing.
For sure.
Okay.
It's worth it.
Gotcha. Okay. Rough Patch, Twisted Fate, the movie. Okay, so now you're cast in Rough Patch, Twisted Fate. You've filmed all your scenes. You've worked different parts of the movie. You were two dual characters. You did some background scenes. And then you went to become part of the crew. Working behind the crew. You did the boomer. You did sound. And you pretty much helped with whatever that was needed behind the scenes. What made you commit to kind of work behind the scenes knowing that you are the actor to be in front of the camera? What made it okay for you to work behind the scenes?
Well, I think when you love something, you want to fully absorb it. I just like being on set in any capacity. I just like the whole vibe of it, you know. So I've done background work on major movies. To me, it's always a learning experience. And what it really taught me is just the nuances, how much detail is put into it. Even as an actor, you feel like you have a good grasp on it. But when you really see, as far as how important sound is, lighting, all these different things. Now when I watch movies, I pay attention to that stuff. Now, continuity. There's so many things outside of, people think you just show up and spit out some lines, and it's the furthest thing from the truth.
It really is.
Makeup, all these different things. Everybody plays a really important role. So for me, it just really, I felt like it expanded me as a person, and it even deepened my respect for the other aspects of acting behind the scenes. It really, I always had an appreciation, but it really went up. It kicked off more than a few notches after having that experience.
Okay, which leads me to this question I like to ask when I ask actors. And it's not to boost my ego or anything like that, but let's share with the audience what you felt about your experience working with me as your producer-director, and also what did you learn from it, and what can you take away from my way of directing this film, and how you can apply it to your career now as you go forward as an actor?
Well, I would say the three biggest things that I learned from you just through watching you was, patience, persistence, and perseverance. I watched the emotional and the physical things that you had to deal with. Being actors, we're a very passionate sort of people, so you're dealing with a lot of different personalities, egos. It's a lot to manage. So to see you persevere through that, changes in schedule and different things that we had to go through, it really just taught me that, you have to push through. It's not always going to be comfortable. It's not always going to be comfortable. You have to get out of your comfort zone. I really watched you. You weren't too proud to be just the director. You were, you ended up being the DP. Shooting the scenes yourself. Like you were willing to learn that. Like you didn't know how to do that before,
right.
But you were willing to learn that. You weren't too proud. A lot of productions I know would have been shut down because I've been part of productions that have been shut down because of some of the issues that we dealt with. So to watch you fight through that, it's like playing for a coach that has your best interest. You want to go harder for that person and give them, more than enough of what they need. And just as a director, I know that you value the actor's opinion, and you really, you want them to succeed. And I think once as an actor, you realize that they really want you to succeed. It really makes it a lot easier to grasp the direction, to take direction, and to really get into the characters as well. Because sometimes I watch you take certain actors aside and really give them more insight on the character. And to me, that helps you as an actor to get into that character and make it more believable.
Yeah, I like doing that because what I'm trying to reach out into an actor is how to make the character that they've been cast for to be authentic for the viewer.
Right.
And sometimes when we're performing a character, we want to make that character us instead of us as actors become the character. And I was trying to separate that from the actor and the character and get the personal out of it so they could actually tune into that character and make that character come to life.
Right.
Some actors were susceptible to it and wanted to do it, and some actors were like, I just have reservations. I don't think I can handle it, or you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
You know, which is fine. Everybody has their opinion, but that's quite interesting. Okay, all right. Now we're going forward, and you now are cast in the TV series Honorable Men, The
Yes,
Brothers.
The Brothers.
Okay, and we are doing a 13 episode uh, production. How the seasons are going to go, I'm not sure of because this is a new process for me.
Right.
And we're working with Cox Communication, putting together the pre-production, and then we're just stepping in and going through boot camp. I mean, while you guys kind of getting prepared, I'm going through a boot camp behind the scenes where I've been doing the PA. Now I'm going to go into the studio and be taught the process in the studio, and then they're going to be taking you guys and just running you to whatever's necessary to form you into these men that we've created to be the perfect example of honorable men. Even though you go through challenges, what's beautiful that I have found about the story is you're honorable, your humanistic personalities of what you naturally go through life, how you keep your honor. It's not necessary that you're just honored
Right.
or honorable person in the mix of what you're going through. Is what you get once you come out of it. And that's what I think is the beauty of it, that you make decisions that at the end result helps you make an honorable decision. It's not always the right decision, but it is always a decision that is in true reality to the person that's watching it. And most likely to the experience of you doing the role. So that's what's beautiful about that. So when you learned that you were now going to take the brotherhood and it go into a television series, and you were going to actually go forward in that, not as Lonnie anymore, but as Ryan Casey Spears, how did that make you feel? And, what are you doing now to get prepared for that character?
Oh.
As you learned a little bit about it each time.
Well, obviously, I can't speak for all the fellows who are part of that. I'm
Okay.
totally excited.
Okay.
I was really ecstatic, feel very fortunate, very blessed to be, given opportunities such as that. And I guess the first thing you want to do is you want to do it justice. You've been given this great opportunity. You don't want to just, rest on your laurels and just kind of sit back and be like, I'm good. You really want to keep getting better and sharper at your craft. So for me, I've tried to stay, in front of the camera and work on different things and work on different nuances as far as being a more believable actor.
Right.
Just doing your research. Doing your research with different shows and movies that kind of speak to that dynamic.
Okay.
Different things of that nature, and just being in constant contact with the guys as well. We really have a camaraderie that I think will really help as it transfers to the screen because we do all genuinely get along, and I think that was I don't know if that was planned,
It was.
but we really do all get along as individuals, and I think that helps. I know some people as actors they can overcome that and they can't stand each other, but we actually really do like each other. So I think that's really things that I've been making it a point of emphasis as going forward with this as well. And then not just the mental but the physical. You want to make sure you're physically where you need to be, mentally, emotionally. You want to have those airways and pathways going to be clear.
Right.
You don't need confusion.
That's great. Okay. Wonderful. All right, now you got another movie feature film that you're going to be doing.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I call you my Leonardo DiCaprio.
Ooh.
And I call you that because of your commitment and love for your craft. And you've proven to me, as a producer and director trying to put films out, that you're committed to the role. You're committed to the character. And you're committed to the project. And you see it to the end, no matter its challenges. Because there's always some kind of challenge, possible chaos. People come and people go. People get started, people quit. And no matter what has taken place, you stood your ground and saw it to the end. So you gave me the faith in you to choose you as my Leonardo DiCaprio, as Marc Henry Lazarre, of course. So you're my Marc Henry Lazarre.
Okay.
Let the name be said.
Yes.
Marc Henry Lazarre. So anyway, so you're going into this new film that we're putting together, we're in pre-production for, called Devastation. And you're going to be working with another actress that I feel the same way about, named Tiffany Brown, who came in towards the end of the movie as a casting person. because she wasn't she wasn't supposed to be part of the project at all.
Right.
And so I had a few challenges with some actors that, did not show or had reasons or excuses to why they couldn't film. But like I had said earlier, we needed to still film. So you suggested her, and she came on set ready and willing, and she outshined so greatly that I ended up taking her forward to play the lead role of Sky in Devastation, and you're going to play her co-star as Trace. When you learned that you were going to go forward in this new movie Devastation, and you was going to be working with Tiffany Brown, how did you feel? And share what you're thinking, because you've read some of the script now. So share with the audience watching us a little bit about what you felt about the process, and also what you felt about the script of what you've read and the storyline that you know of right now.
Okay. Well, Devastation, I'm really excited to be part of it. When I found out that I was cast for it, I was speechless for a little while.
You were?
Yeah, it was a big deal.
Okay.
It was definitely a big deal. Just because with your writing, nothing's ever the same. One thing is you really have some extreme versatility when you're doing your stories. So I like that. It's very unpredictable but very exciting at the same time. And Devastation being you hear the word devastation, you don't necessarily think of a love story, and I think that's very catchy. So, with Trace, I'm playing Trace, the male counterpart to Sky, and playing with Tiffany Brown, who's a dynamic actress.
Yes, she is.
I was really excited because I knew that we'd be able to really hit on some emotions. I know Tiffany's got great strengths in that area, and I also know, playing a part alongside her, you got to bring it, which I think is going to only help enhance the film.
Right.
I think the script is just really well written.
Thank you.
It's very descriptive, and I think the characters that we have in there are really going to pinpoint on a bunch of different, levels as far as, friendship, betrayal, love as the way everybody aspires to have it. But there's some things that can really test it. Life and death experiences that I think are really going to get the audience on an adrenaline rush.
Adrenaline rush. Why'd you choose the word adrenaline rush?
Because that's the feeling that I get when I was reading the script. The adrenaline is really gonna. They don't know what's gonna happen next. What's the end result of this situation? And these are real situations that I think that when you make these characters, either I think people when they watch it, either they identify with them personally, or they've seen this character in real life.
Okay.
There's plenty of movies. I think the best movies are when you can be like, you know what, I know that guy, or I can identify that because I've been through that, or I know somebody close to me who's gone through that. So art imitates life, and your strength is, I think that you're able to touch on situations that really are embedded in just in people's everyday lives. But the situations that happen in Devastation, I think is going to throw people for a loop.
I agree. I had some fun putting that together, so I'm looking forward to filming that. Okay.
I can't wait.
Alrighty. Now, we have another one that's going to be made into a feature film that you're going to be a part of. Also, along with Mark, you are Mark, along with Quentin Clare, Marvin Vance, and Rob Madden. And you're going to be, and Calvin Calvin, of course, is going to be the title of the movie is called Protege.
Very catchy.
Very catchy. And so you've got your mentor, and you are the protege to that mentor. And you got all kinds of skills that's going to come about that you're going to be learning for. Some good fight scenes. I mean, this is going to take me out of the realm of anything I've done before as well. And you're going to have more than one villain that you're going to be working with. And we just, also made a decision to go with a young teen villain.
Wow, yeah.
And we're casting that to an actress that I've worked with by the name of Selena Gabrielle Carrillo. And she's a beautiful young lady, and she's willing to do whatever it takes to be able to use those acting skills to a great perfection. And that's why I want to work with her. I think she's going to be fantastic. And for her to be able to go to a different level of being a villain, I get chills just thinking about her actions to this. So with that, when you learned about Protege, because you and I talked a little bit about the story in great length. So when you heard me telling you about the outline the treatment of Protege and what we were looking to do with that film. What did you think? What did you feel? And what made you willing to take on being the character that you're going to be playing in this film?
Well, I feel it's like a music artist. Sometimes when you're in the studio and you hear a certain track, and everybody that's in the studio is like, yeah, you got a hit right there. Like, no matter what, you just know already just by hearing the outline. It's like, yeah, you got a banger, you got a hit.
Mm-hmm.
So when you told me the basic premise for Protege, I already knew. I said, oh, that. I just thought blockbuster. I mean, truthfully, I thought like this one right here is gonna be one that's gonna get on just all levels. Internationally, I knew you had a blockbuster on your hands.
Wow.
Yeah, just the story itself, the
Mm-hmm.
way you put it together.
Mm-hmm.
It's not your typical story. I mean, it has the action and different things of that nature, but the whole protege aspect and the way the characters are aligned, I was just excited just hearing you talk about it. I could sense the excitement, but I mean, I had to confirm it to you, like, hey, that right there is.
Stick with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he
The
definitely.
passion for that story was there.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay. All right. So now, let's talk to the audience a little bit and tell the audience about you, who is Marc Henry Lazarre,
Hmm.
why they should see the productions that you're about to do, the movie titles we've named, and a little bit about the different characters and how they relate to you to help them relate to you through those characters.
Okay. Well, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Marc Henry Lazarre, and I've been blessed with the opportunity to be part of Rough Patch Twisted Fate, which is a true to life story about overcoming, rough patches and obstacles in your life. I think you'll identify with that movie because we all go through rough patches in our life. But we always see a lot of times how people go from A to Z. We see A and we see Z, but we don't necessarily see the letters in between, how they get there. So I think it's very important, with Rough Patch, it shows you a different group of